Hello everybody. Some of you may already know me, and you may be wanting to watch this to get to know me or understand me a little bit better. I'd say thank you for caring. Thank you for caring enough to watch. Many of you have already heard this story. I'm a little bit nervous to get it perfect, but there's really no such thing as perfect, so let's just do it. So this video is about my history with anxiety and some backstory to kind of see where I'm coming from. After this video, I am going to put out another video of things that I've learned about anxiety. But this one's just about backstory, really. So my name is Jana Bolin. I'm 24 years old. I graduated high school in 2015, and I'm still in college. Now, that's kind of a funny part of the story, too, because I've had 5 plans. First one was nursing, second dental hygiene, sonography, x-ray, and now I'm doing medical billing and coding. I'm very happy with this. More broadly, it's an associate's degree in health information technology. I am married. I've been with my husband for 6 years, married for 2. My parents split up when I was very young, and I was abused physically and mentally. I moved from Ohio to Arizona when I was 12, but the abuse didn't necessarily stop there because I still went back to Ohio for the summers. I want to add that this parent has grown a lot since then, and they've suffered their own abuse as a child, and we found a way to be at peace and have a relationship. So because of the abuse, I was taken to counseling very consistently throughout my childhood. I was diagnosed with ADD and PTSD. I've always had anxiety. I have always been that what if person. I was the kid who was notorious for asking, is there going to be a bathroom there? Because I was just scared that there wouldn't be. I was the tummy ache kid constantly. However, there came a point in high school where my health took a nosedive. It's as if a digestive switch had flipped. I'll be frank, I had very terrible diarrhea constantly. Nothing I did helped. You can imagine what kind of anxiety that alone could cause someone, let alone somebody who was already predisposed to it. Despite this, I still worked a part-time job and was in AP classes. So in high school, I went to a doctor for my stomach issues, and she didn't really find anything wrong. Because I was 15, 16, no doctor really took me seriously. Doctors didn't want to run certain tests because I was too young. And I understand that not all tests are without risk, but I was desperate. At one point, I had set up an appointment with a gastroenterologist. Mind you, I'm still about 16 at the time. My parents took personal responsibility and independence really seriously. I had to wait probably about a month to get seen for that appointment. I had to take off school, and when I got to the appointment, there was an issue with my insurance, and they turned me away. And I just lost it. I bawled because it just felt so hopeless. Later on, I finally got to see a doctor, and he was extremely cold and disinterested. He inspected me and told me that I was malnourished. He told me that I needed to follow an extreme diet, and of course I was bummed I couldn't have potatoes and chocolate, which are 2 things that I live for. I let out a little, oh man, and I was met with a, look, if you don't want to listen to me, then I can't help you. And I left that appointment on the verge of tears. If you know me, it takes quite a bit for that to happen. But still, no answers on my digestive issues. I ended up self-medicating with daily small doses of Imodium. Note, I am not a doctor. Do not take this as medical advice. But it helped me to control the digestive side a little bit, just enough to get by. Again, I had a social life. I was working part-time. I was taking AP classes. I graduated top 10, and I mean, my graduating class was probably about 110, so it's not like huge, but still, my point with that is I got through it, and I think that I did pretty well. So around my senior year of high school, I started seeing a counselor again. This lady helped me with different mindsets and techniques, but the anxiety was still raging. I will be honest and say that there were times that I had contemplated suicide. It crossed my mind. My digestive pain was just so bad, and that fueled my already bad anxiety into something that I felt that I could not escape. I felt that that could potentially be an only option. Thankfully, those thoughts were usually very brief, and I could kind of logic it out like, no, that doesn't make sense. But I can't deny that that wasn't there. And that's just such a distinctive point in dealing with mental health. It's a point of realization that if after all the coping mechanisms that you have tried and you still feel like this, it may definitely be a time to consider medication. I will note though that the reality, which when you're having a huge anxiety mental breakdown, you can't really comprehend reality, but the reality is that this too shall pass, that this will go away. You have good days. During these times, it just feels so soul-sucking that you're convinced that you will feel this way forever. And that is a lie, and you should know it. If you get to that point personally, I want you to remember my face. This feeling is a lie. You have good days, and you will have more good days. This will pass. Now, lies are real. I would never tell you that what you're feeling isn't real. Just the same as just because it's in your head doesn't mean that it's not real. Your panic, fight, or flight response is a false alarm. It's a lie. So how do we disengage it? That can look different for different people. I'll be talking more about that in my next video. But back to the story. I started seeing a primary care physician. I tell him about my feelings of constant panic and digestive issues. He diagnoses me with generalized anxiety disorder, and we discuss medication. And we decided to try some. I can't remember what it was. I gave it a couple weeks, but I just felt so weird. I was dizzy, getting headaches. And so I called them and I told them about it. And they gave me a new prescription. They sent it to the pharmacy. They said, go pick it up and start it tonight. Big pro tip. If you are on antidepressants, do not cold turkey discontinue it. Don't do that. I don't know why this doctor told me to just stop taking that medication and to immediately start taking this one. I don't know. I'm at a loss, and I don't say this next part to scare you, but to give you insight so that hopefully you don't make the same mistake that I did. I took the new medication that night without properly weaning off of the first one, which I'm not a doctor. Perhaps I wasn't on it long enough that I necessarily needed to wean off, but those medications interacted very terribly that night. You guys, I was hallucinating in my dreams, and I know how silly that sounds because you're dreaming, but it was real. It was so real. You're taking a mind-altering drug. In my dreams, there was a man controlling my thoughts and controlling my reality, and he was laughing at me because there was nothing I could do. The next morning, I woke up wanting to cry and puke. I looked into the mirror and my pupils were enormous. I knew something was not right in there. So, again, I'm in high school. I gotta go to school. I sit in the kitchen, I eat my breakfast, and I tell my parents, look, there was a man in my head last night controlling me. I don't feel well. I can't go to school. And, my parents didn't know what was going on with the medication because I was pretty independent. I was taking care of all that stuff myself. And I was also the girl who cried wolf, which, to them, my feelings were always real. To them, it was the girl who cried wolf. And I received a tough shit. And school and showing up for commitments has always been really important in my family. It was overwhelming. I felt panicked. My brain was flexing. And I don't know if you've ever felt that before. If you come off of a medication and your body searches for that medication, it's like neurological twitches in a way. So my brain was flexing. It was such a weird, gross, uncomfortable situation. And I cried. I took my little sister to school. I took myself to school. My first period teacher looked at me and said, "You're not okay." And no, I wasn't okay. But it faded over the course of the day, but I was just so rocked by this experience. Moral of the story, be careful. Just be careful. And if you have any questions, ask them. Please ask them. So after that, I got on Paxil or paroxetine, and this one worked. This one did it for me. So don't be afraid of medications. It is a process to find the right one. Be very gentle with yourself when you're finding the right one. However, there are often side effects. You have to weigh the pros and cons. For me, the obvious pro was lowered anxiety. The cons, I had vivid nightmares, diminished sex drive, sensory overstimulation, lack of emotion, and if I missed a dose, I would have that little neurological flexing feeling. And that just wasn't fun. It felt like I was kind of twitching. But I mean, pros and cons, you gotta weigh it, and you're not guaranteed to have all of the same side effects that somebody else is gonna have. After high school, I graduated, moved out, I had various jobs while taking classes, and I did really well. My mental health kind of shifted so much when I got that sense of freedom. I mean, it just lifted a lot when I wasn't having to go to school 8 hours a day, and I could go to classes, and if I needed to leave class, I could leave class, and I was in control of where I worked. Just that little sense of control really made a big difference for my anxiety personally, and I decided to discontinue the medication. And I want to say, do not do this without a physician's advice and guidance. You cannot just cold turkey stop taking medication. I was able to wean myself off. I think it took me maybe about a month, maybe a little bit more, to fully wean myself off. And things are okay. I still have really bad bouts of anxiety. I've learned more things to help me, which I'll talk about in the next video. I'm always searching for more techniques and ideas. So if you have any, I'd love to discuss them in the comments. And please, let's keep the comments constructive and be kind. But that's my story. That's where I am. I hope that you got a little something from this video. Please check out the next one for, I don't know, some tips and tricks.